know that you wanted to be a Pixar sculptor? Where did that come from?
I started out in visual effects about 28 years ago, and I was doing everything from camera work to building sets to optical printing, mold making, everything. But one of the things I was doing was sculpture, and every time I did sculpture, I liked it more and more. And it was just something that I kind of stumbled into. It was a means to an end, but little by little, it started to become a love of mine. And it was actually Nightmare Before Christmas that changed everything, because prior to that, I wasn't hired as a sculptor. I was hired to do numerous things that would lead to what they needed. But I got on Nightmare Before Christmas, and I had such a great time, and I was so proud of the movie, and there were so many sculptures we did. And I got my first taste of actually working on a film and filling out the cast in sculptures. And it was just thrilling, and it was really cool then too, because it's a little bit more of a direct process in stop motion. What I sculpt, I do have to put the details into, and it gets molded, and then an armature is put inside an animation armature, and it goes out, the cast of it, a foam rubber cast, goes out onto the stage. It gets painted and goes out onto the stage. So it's much more direct. It'd be like if this became the character, and instead of being a hard plastic, it was soft. But yeah, I just fell in love with it. I think it's this desire to bring things back to life, or bring things to life, new things to life. I think it's why I'm also interested in dinosaurs, because it's cool to see these things and try to imagine them alive, and they're very spectacular creatures. But yeah, it was definitely me. Actually, I know when it happened. I was working, doing a little bit of work at Phil Tippett Studios, and it was on the movie Willow, and there were two different guys that were doing two different sculpts for the same creature, this dragon-like creature in that movie, called the Ebercyst. And one guy was doing a huge one, just of its head, that had to be blown up. I mean, literally blown up. They were going to put explosives in it and blow it up after it was painted and everything. Blood and guts were going to come out of it. But he was working in wet clay, like ceramic clay. But he was doing these really big movements, and it was taking all of his energy, and it was very exhausting. And then just a short distance, probably this space between these two tables, there's another guy doing something much more like this, where he's sculpting the whole body. He's doing it out of oil-based clay, and putting in a lot more care and detail, because the camera was going to be very close on that, not like the other one. And I walked between them, and I remember after I did that, there's something happened, and it triggered something, and I thought, wow, this could be two different ways to portray the same thing, and both of them are trying to get it onto the screen, make it look like it's alive, make it feel energized and moving, and I think that's when I really started going, maybe I should do this for a career. And I stumbled into Pixar. It was also a thing where they've been wanting me for a while, but I didn't think I could fit into a computer animation company. I didn't know anything about computers. I knew nothing about computers. But they wanted artists, and I interviewed in '99, and I've been there since 2000. So.
How do you keep the proportions symmetrical between the left and right side?
It's a challenge, and what's interesting is we actually like some of the asymmetry that happens. Humans are very bad at making things completely symmetrical, which is why your question is so good, because it is tough to do. It's very easy to do in the computer, very difficult to do in real life symmetry. So usually but we want some of the symmetry, because the best looking person on the planet is still going to have a little bit of asymmetry to their face, and it's what makes us look like we're living things as opposed to robots. So what we have to do is, in a way, we have to control how symmetrical we make it, like in other words, not go too symmetrical, which we'll never really do. But he's a good example. Let's see, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of cut off, but his nostrils are very different, his teeth are very different, and the more asymmetrical they are, usually the sloppier they look, or they look rugged and rough. They look like, they've been hit from different sides throughout their lives, and it's kind of had an effect on their face. So it can deliver a certain kind of a look, and the more symmetrical we go, usually younger people, younger animals are more symmetrical, and we lose that symmetry as we get older. So it can help somebody look younger, can help somebody look prettier. It's something we have to think about all the time. Mostly for me, if I'm having trouble with it, like if there's two sides to a face, and so when I'm working on one side, let's do it this way. Whoop. So if I'm working on this side, and then I have to kind of copy the other side, it's hard because I don't see what I've already done, and usually I'll do one side and get it right and go, great, now I just need to copy it. So a lot of times I'll put a mirror on this side and angle it in just the right way so that when I'm on this side, I can see the reverse of it, and it helps a lot.
Sculptures in the animation process.
Well, they are used to help build the digital models that we work with. So first they're scanned, and then a lot of times we'll have modelers that are laying. The scan is too dense; it's got too many points, and nothing is connected in a logical manner. It's just the scanner just does what it needs to do to describe the shape. So they put on these points that are far fewer, and they're very intelligently placed so that we can put controls in and make it move. But once all that's done and the animator gets it, then they'll often ask to have these sculptures on their desk, just so they can look at them and be inspired and be reminded of the personality of the character. Because this is in a pose just like all the other ones were. So rather than it just being lifeless, which is often how it is when it just comes straight out of the modeler's hands. The animator has to put it in a pose where it's alive, and oftentimes the poses that we've chosen are really good ways of showing the personality. So they'll often try to copy that stuff and repeat it. Actually, we were talking earlier, your question, and so what we tend to do with these sculptures is we ask ourselves, okay, on any given day, what would the average pose and expression of this character look like if you just met them on the street? If you just bumped into them on an average day, how would they be posed? And that's often how we approach it, because there's always going to be places in the movie where they're doing something dramatically different than what they would normally do in life. But what we want to do is convey who they are with one, sometimes more than one, but often one sculpture. And so that's how the pose is chosen, and it's a good one.
Okay, now I
Okay, cool.
That's all we've got time for, everybody.
Okay.
Let's give it up for Greg Dykstra.